All right, we're jumping right in today with a topic that starts out sounding like a straightforward medical condition, but trust me, it ends up asking some of the biggest questions about what it means to be human.
So let's kick things off by challenging something we hear all the time, that your health is basically a reflection of your choices. Eat right, hit the gym, and everything will be fine. But what if that's only, say, a tiny piece of the puzzle? What if the game was pretty much decided for you before you ever had a chance to play?
Well, take a look at this. When it comes to something like hyperuricemia or high uric acid, this idea that it's all about lifestyle just gets blown out of the water. The source material is crystal clear. About 70% of the risk factors are stuff you have zero, and I mean zero, control over. It's all in your genetic code, your basic wiring.
So the takeaway here is huge. A massive part of your health risk is built on a foundation you had absolutely no say in. Let's really unpack what that actually looks like. Okay, first, just so we're all on the same page, what even is hyperuricemia? Simply put, it's too much uric acid in your blood. And this isn't just about the insane pain of a gout attack. Nope. It's a huge warning sign for kidney damage, nasty stones, and even serious heart problems. It's a problem with your whole system. And this, right here, is the core of that blueprint you can't control. You've got genes like URAT1 and GLUT9 that can be hardwired to hold on to uric acid instead of getting rid of it. The number of filters in your kidneys, your nephrons, that number is set at birth. And then there are the things you really can't dodge, your sex and just, getting older. Even your natural body type is mostly genetic. The source calls this your unchangeable ground.
And this is where you really see the scale of it all. Just look at these numbers. Your genes alone have a 30% impact, and your ability to change that is practically zero. Your built-in kidney function? That's another 18%. Add them up, and that's nearly half of your entire risk profile locked in from day one. Yeah, diet and alcohol matter, for sure, but they're fighting a really powerful current.
Okay, so if that's the hand you're dealt, the terrain you can't change, what about the part you can control? Well, this gets us to lifestyle's role, which is basically a limited battle. The terrain might be tough, but that doesn't mean the fight is pointless. It just means you gotta be smart about it. So here are the levers you can actually pull. On one side, you've got the things that push your uric acid up: booze, sugar, eating too much, even hitting the gym too hard. But on the other side, you have the things that help bring it down: drinking plenty of water, keeping your weight in check, and loading up on veggies. You can't change the map, but you can definitely choose your route. But, and this is where it gets really tough, what happens when your blueprint is so bad that even making all the perfect choices just isn't enough? The source material talks about this worst-case, high-risk group. I mean, for these people, the deck is just completely stacked against them from the moment they're born. They have the worst genes for handling uric acid, they start life with fewer kidney filters, and their metabolism is wonky from the get-go. For them, this is way beyond just skipping a few beers. It's a lifelong medical battle. And for this high-risk group, the clock is ticking. Timing is absolutely everything. If they get on top of it in their 20s or 30s, they have a really good shot at a normal, healthy life. But if they wait until their 40s, some damage to their kidneys and blood vessels might already be permanent. And by their 50s, they're mostly just playing defense, trying to slow down the decline. That window of opportunity, it closes fast. And if you want to understand just how severe that starting disadvantage can be, get a load of this number. A baby born really small, under 1,000 grams, can start life missing 40 to 60% of their kidney filters. That is a permanent hardware deficit that no amount of kale or jogging is ever going to fix. And right here, this is where the whole conversation takes a massive turn. We're stepping out of the science of genes and nephrons and wading into some of the most profound ethical territory there is. The source doesn't pull any punches. It asks this jarring question head on. If we know a child has a very high chance of a life full of medical problems they can't control, is it a selfish act to bring them into the world anyway? Is it about the parent's ego? And that question, man, it throws a spotlight on a massive contradiction in our modern world in both our values and our medicine. The source points out this really stark paradox. On the one hand, our society largely accepts the choice to end a healthy pregnancy, often for social or financial reasons. But on the other hand, we pour incredible resources into saving extremely high-risk infants, even when we know they face a future filled with serious health challenges. So what this all boils down to,
is this unavoidable clash. Where do we draw the line between a parent's right to choose and a potential child's right to be born without a predictable, heavy burden of suffering? It's the autonomy of one generation versus the well-being of the next.
And this conflict doesn't just stay at the individual level. It scales all the way up to the final and most profound dilemma that the source material raises. We're talking about the survival of us as a species. This quote from the source just says it all, really. Freedom and human rights are both medicine and poison for human prosperity. The very things we hold most dear might actually be a double-edged sword.
Think about the logic here, because it's pretty unsettling when you walk through it. First, we champion individual freedom, letting people make choices for their own happiness. Second, people making rational choices for themselves often decide to have fewer kids, or none at all, especially when things are tough. So the third step, the logical conclusion, is that our most treasured values, freedom, personal choice, might be what's driving us toward a future with not enough people to sustain our societies. And that's where the source leaves us, right in the middle of this massive, unresolved question that kind of shakes the foundations of modern society. Is it possible to find a balance? Can we keep our species going without giving up the individual rights we've fought so hard for? Or are we facing a fundamental trade-off between freedom and survival? That's the dilemma.